At my community college, I've worked there for 15 years now. I teach Spanish. That's my primary hat. But then I also have some release time to do a few administrative things, scheduling and recommending adjuncts for hire, and working with dual credit instructors. So just a variety of different things that require a little subject matter expertise to kind of keep that part going. And then, yes, the other part that I referenced in the email is, so DMACC does have a faculty union, a faculty association that's affiliated with ISEA and NEA, and I am the president this year. So
okay,
that's been keeping me pretty busy, huh?
yeah, it sounds like you got a long list of things that you do. Could you describe to me, like, what have been some of the challenges that COVID has faced? And you can take this however you want, as a professor, as, you know, working with the college. What's been some of the challenges for you?
Yeah, I think the need to quickly adapt was definitely a big challenge. This time last year, I was also gearing up for another conference, and was out of state in Minnesota when we started getting words that, luckily I didn't have to go far, but, word that things were shutting down and that things were, going to be changing. The leadership from the faculty union was involved in helping to craft the policy, about what we would be doing after our spring break and how that was going to look. So I think there were a lot of, faculty and staff and administrators and students that really had to, step up and learn some new skills and maybe, consider investing in new technology. So I do think that that's been, that was a big challenge. There was a pretty steep learning curve.
Yeah.
And so, I think that definitely took some time. I think for the students, when we went virtual in the spring, we were really encouraged to, not require attendance and things like that in light of potential internet issues and scheduling. So, I think some of the students really, made that work for them, but then they were like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I was like, well, if only there was a time you could find me online, like every day for 55 minutes when I am devoted to you. So, sort of the flexibility there that worked for some students and didn't necessarily work great. And I know that their students had a lot of different reasons for whether they chose to come or not. A lot of them ended up, if they worked in retail, they ended up, if they were at Target or any of those kinds of employers, they suddenly were working lots of extra hours and, or having shifts changed on them to try to meet the demands of, continually stocking the shelves. I think just a lot of things.
Yeah.
Over the summer, then the college definitely, we worked hard to try to get as many areas that needed to be on campus back in a safe way. And I think that that was one of the things I'm really proud of DMACC for doing so well. They really tried to balance the needs of the students with the safety concerns. And looked for ways to, try to support faculty and students who did that. So I know that a lot of my students were able to get, DMACC was able to facilitate through the CARES funds, getting students laptops, getting hotspots for people, letting us take whatever technology we needed home. So I have, a DMACC laptop, a DMACC monitor. The chair that I'm sitting on is my DMACC chair. So, they really did a good job of trying to provide for us.
So have you been doing most of your classes online or in person, or like a blend of each? Give me a description of how.
So very true. Yes, good question. So my classes in the language department have been primarily virtual, but hybrid virtual. So we have reduced a little bit of the face-to-face, like the synchronous class time. But for example, my elementary classes, the level 1 and level 2 are 5 credits at DMACC. And so the students have like 4 hours, 4 credits worth of online time in person with me via Zoom. And then they have 1 credit of, extra practice kind of in addition to their homework that's independent work. And so for me, I, have class Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday generally. And I think, the virtual setting has helped attendance this semester.
Really?
Because students don't really have, a reason unless their internet goes out or they're not feeling well to not come, so a lot of the, car issues or childcare issues or things like that have really just disappeared. Yeah. So this semester, I've had fantastic attendance overall. And, a lot of my students are talking about, how much they appreciate the virtual time because they do get to interact, they get to ask me questions. And I think that is definitely one of the big takeaways because for a long time, DMACC and other institutions were a little bit leery when they were scheduling online classes to incorporate some synchronous time because they thought that students wanted it to be completely flexible. They wanted to be able to do it at their own pace and not have to rely on that. But I think people are starting to realize that just watching videos all the time or, interacting on discussion boards is maybe not enough, like it's hard to replace getting to hear from your classmates, getting to hear from your teacher, asking questions and getting a response right away. Versus the lag time. So I do think that moving forward, we will be able to do more hybrid virtual classes like this. And I think that's a win for everybody.
I was going to ask you, it's like interesting that you say that students you're having better time with attendance over Zoom, but and if you have talked to students, what is their morale and their enthusiasm and motivation like? Because I find it very hard to operate over Zoom. I'm lucky enough at Simpson that we do Zoom, but it hasn't been a major majority throughout the semester. Sometimes if a professor can't meet, we'll switch it to Zoom, but we've pretty much been in person. What do your students say about that? Even if attendance is good, aren't they like freaking tired of Zoom?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I do think that I am, my students have a mixture of classes. I kind of didn't finish the rest of that thought, so I can come back to that. But, because not all of the majority of our classes that can be are still virtual, but science labs and a lot of like the career and technical classes are meeting in a face-to-face setting. It sounds like, from what I can tell from my students, that a lot of their other classes are pure online. They're not taking a ton of them that do require virtual, synchronous time. But, so I think they're comparing my class to not seeing their instructor. So, and I always try to take, when they tell me that mine is their favorite class, with a grain of salt, because they could be telling all of their instructors that. But, but we just did all of our midterm interviews, and, I met with most of them one-on-one, and that was something that kept coming up. And it was, but I think, it also depends what you do in the virtual time. And so I try to, I've tried to mix it up with different technology, and, I'm pretty fortunate that at those lower levels, playing some games, using some websites to have them, compete either in teams or individually against each other. There have been ways to mix it up.
I don't know.
But I will agree. And, I think that there are a lot, the vast majority of my students don't turn their cameras on. I hardly ever see their faces. But, I feel like that's also the trade-off, because I know that when I'm in meetings, or when I'm in my classes, that I take toward my PhD, that I would rather keep my camera off too, because, you can do other things.
That would be nice. None of my professors, if we've done Zoom, they require to have your camera on so they know you're there. And
yeah, and I compensate in other ways. I would say almost like every 10 minutes in class, I have something where they have to type in the chat, And
Yeah.
if I don't hear from them, I will say like, hey, is everything okay? And so I keep them pretty busy. And then get them into a breakout room, practice with their partners, come back to the main room, talk about it, move on to the next activity. So I do think that, there is something to be said for, for not treating your Zoom time as a lecture. And, I also, with my classes, we had worked hard to get the numbers down. So I don't have a lot of students online at a time. So they really also have that, advantage or disadvantage. It's really hard for them to hide.
Yeah. So I don't know if this would be like a confidentiality issue, but like talking about how attendance is up, what about grades? Have you seen any noticeable dips in maybe more alarming than, previous semesters? I don't know if there's any correlation to your.
Yeah, I will say, especially last well, spring, and then again in the fall, looking at it, there were I think attrition has been pretty high in terms of students who don't make it the long haul through the semester. And I think that there are more students who are struggling to get their work in on time and to do the work. And I do get the sense that they're stressed. I do try to make sure that I'm giving them plenty of notice and trying to give them some time to work on things, and to have some policies that have some flexibility, but also to try to remind them, like, it doesn't do you any good if you're trying to do chapter 1 when we're in chapter 3. You're not going to be able to participate, you're not going to be able to do the stuff. So trying to balance that. But I do think that there are a much higher number of students that are struggling, and and a lot of them recognize it. They may or may not make an excuse, and they just say, I'm not getting it done.
Yeah, I've definitely felt that, and I graduate in May, so it's kind of like the worst possible time to get like fatigue and blues, and struggle to get to the finish line. Does DMACC do anything regarding like mental health? I know like Wartburg has been doing some mental health days. Same
Yeah.
thing here at Simpson. And if you do know about that, what?
Yeah, I don't know that it's necessarily as much mental health days, but I was just hearing that we have a grant from SAMHSA, the mental health organization. I don't remember what exactly it stands for, but so they have been able to provide a lot of online counseling for students, so they don't, and we were actually, I was just at a meeting yesterday where our director of student services was talking about how much higher our counseling usage is, and has been this fall and into the spring. And she chalked it up to the fact that it is so much more anonymous. Students don't have to walk into a campus and walk by how many ever people to go to the counselor's office. They just go to the website and click ask for help, and they are fed to whichever counselor is available, and they can follow up and do that. So I do think that that, and some of the other outreach, they have done some different things where they've had faculty and staff calling students to check on them. I mean, I don't know that necessarily fixes it, but at least then the students are aware that someone is there, and that we are paying attention, and that we do care.
Yeah, I think it's important, especially in these times, and it's cool to see colleges trying to be creative and figure out ways to stay in touch with students, because I don't know what happened with DMACC, like what your guys' schedule was for the spring, but Simpson lost their spring break. So, usually that's a big point for students.
Yes.
That break and decompress and not think about assignments or projects or anything.
Right. And quite possibly for faculty as well. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So yes, because next week we should be on break. So yeah, I do think that is likely going to make a difference in terms of, how well students and everyone fares all the way through into May. And I was going to say, kind of coming back to one of the other things I noticed, like in the fall, I had a much higher number of students who just, they did everything for the class and then they just didn't take the final, and so, it was like, like, you've done everything so far. It's one more 10-minute interview with me, and they just, did it. Like, I emailed them, said, hey, they're like, nope, I'm just not doing it. So, I think, they all just kind of had their point, but I was like, usually I'll get like one or two who don't show up, and last semester, I think I had 8 or 10 across the board.
Was there an explanation for that? Like the final exam is usually the thing that has the most amount of points that you can
Yeah, I mean, that's not necessarily, I try to make sure that their grade is pretty evenly weighted across, so I don't know that it had and maybe that was what they were weighing, was that, it was whatever 5% or 10%, but it was so it was still like, it didn't make or break them from like passing or failing in general, but there were several students who would have had an A who ended up with like an A- or a B+ because they just didn't take it. So,
Yeah, that's interesting to hear though. Like, I feel like that would be like your most important thing to do throughout the semester, but kids are just ready to hike up their boots and walk away.
so.
Okay, so we've been talking a lot about students, and I think the first question was the challenges that have been posed to you. But I guess maybe if we could flip this, what's been positive? What have you really liked? You said attendance has been up. What about the engagement with students? Like, what has really worked well for you in your class?
Yeah, I think when we were talking about like other things that we're doing to reach out to students, one of the other things that I learned about this week that was really exciting to me is, so our student activities council, which is, student run, they figure out how they want to spend the, a portion of the students' tuition that goes toward planning activities and supporting clubs and things like that. So all of the community colleges in Iowa, their student activities coordinators have banded together and they've been planning statewide activities online, so any student from any community college can go. And so they still have been doing, like one of the things that they did a lot at my campus was like grocery bingo, so students could come and play and win, food or prize, different like gift cards for gas or gift cards for grocery stores. And I was talking to the director of our student activities, and she says that they've been getting about 150 students on every week for some of their online things. And, so I think, figuring out different ways that we can reach students and different ways that we can provide services in more innovative ways has been a real benefit. And that was another thing that also came up with our student affairs director at the same meeting yesterday when we were talking about the mental health. She was talking about how, it has sort of forced us out of, we used to say, oh, it can't be done that way, or we can't do that. We have to keep it the way that it's been. And, we've realized that there's no excuse, right? We can do these things online, and especially because DMACC has 6 campuses and like 4 or 5-ish other centers, all these locations. It used to be that things were so location dependent, so students in Carroll had access to, the resources that were in Carroll. And maybe they would drive to Boone or but so I think, being able to offer classes, offer services in new ways. We have an online tutoring program that students can log into, and get help, and they don't have to go to a campus. So I think a lot of the services have been able to really improve.
What campus are you on?
I'm at the Ankeny campus. I was at the Boone campus for 9 years, so I you know, what it's like on the outer edges and then now at the mothership, if you
Yeah,
will.
I'm curious because I actually, before I came to Simpson, I went to DMACC for 2 years. And then
Okay.
even in my first year at Simpson, I took a year and a half off and then I went to Iowa State. And then that didn't work out and I came back. But I love DMACC. DMACC is like, it was nice because, you know, a lot of kids, especially that young, don't really know what they want to do or where they want to go with their career, but it's an easy way to still build up your education before you actually really have to commit to anything unless you want to get in like a certain program at DMACC. But I loved like the flexibility, like you said, you know, there's all these different locations. So I think I had a few classes up in Ankeny, and then I had a few downtown. Well, I forget, is that urban?
Urban, yeah.
Yeah, but then I
Mhm.
live in Indianola, so it was always very convenient to go to the south side, but that one's so small compared to
Mhm.
the other ones.
Although, yeah, I don't know because this just a couple of years ago. Then, yeah, now it's in. I don't know if you went to the um, oh, the original Southside location or Southridge. They've
Yeah.
expanded into the mall now, but yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah,
Yeah, no,
they're
those
taking
were,
over part of Southridge Mall. So,
that's good. I mean, there really wasn't
mhm.
much in that mall to begin with, so that's like a
Right.
place to put a college.
Hmm.
Um, oh, I had another question and then I forgot it. Oh, I got it. What do you think? This is something that I've talked to people about at other colleges. You think students would get to, like, let's say that, you know, COVID is still going on. I mean, we don't really necessarily have a timeline for it. I know that some things are improving with the vaccines, but I'm assuming DMACC, like other colleges, are planning on to try and continue somewhat of the same model they've been using when they go to the fall semester of 2021. Do you think that that would maybe deter students from coming to college? Because that's actually where this whole story started, was with freshmen. I was like, you know, everybody's experience is compromised, but like the freshmen, I feel really bad for them because they have nothing to compare to.
Right, right. And I think there are a lot of students who had chosen to defer. I do know that our enrollment with being, you know, limited on campus, mostly online or virtual, you know, we definitely have seen the impact of that. And I think that that's another reason why, um, you know, we are hoping to be more on campus for the fall. That's one of the things we're actually updating our fall schedule now to be back on campus, but having to like remember what room things used to be in
Yeah.
and so it's, you know, but we are still planning to offer some options because, you know, I was talking to my students today and they're like, so we'd have to come back to campus to attend class. I was like, yeah, that's kind of the idea. So you'd have to like get out of bed and
I actually have to try now.
put on some shoes and no.
Yeah, that's
So
actually,
yes, I mean, I do think that there is a push to get back to the, you know, the normal and but I do hope that we can take what we've learned and still try to offer more options,
mhm.
because I do think that there are students who chose to start in virtual classes and, you know, are maybe, you know, content there.
Mhm. So on top of the challenges that you faced, and I would say for both student, faculty, and staff, everybody has that level of fatigue. How do you feel like at this point now? Like you said, adjusting pretty much every day to different protocols, different ways of handling things. Do you find it hard to be there and be present as an instructor every day and map out your classes? Like where is your fatigue level at?
You know, it definitely, you know, kind of comes and goes. There's just a lot all the time, all the, you know, the meetings and the, you know, still trying to attend the virtual conferences that I go to as part of my professional development. So, yeah, I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably say 7 or 8 usually in terms of being tired. Um, but, you know, I do. Uh, really try to, put all that aside, and, when I have the time with my students. So, I do think that that has been, in the fall and the spring, having that sense of community has really helped, and I kind of, having been through it in the fall, I, have my resources more organized. I haven't ever been anyone who, I had a few things that I would refer to in like a PowerPoint or Google Slides. And, because I had the Elmo and I had the whiteboard and I had different resources. And so, in the fall, it was the summer and into the fall was really, trying to get my resources organized and trying to have it in one place for me and for the students, because then I can share the slides with them and they can go back as they want to. But so I do think that, maybe the spring is a little better, but, trying hard not to think about the vacation we're not getting next week.
Yeah, I think that's a very disappointing thing for students and faculty.
Yes, it's hard to remember that I had that extra week in January at this point, but
Yeah, well, and yeah, when did you guys start the semester? What was it late?
we were January 23rd or something like that.
Okay. So that was right around, we started January 20th, and so it's like you're starting later. And when do you guys end your semester?
I think everything's done by May 7th. So.
Okay. So we're April 20th. So I mean, that's a little 3 months to compress a semester worth of material.
Just kidding. I think it was January 19th. Anyway, it was the Tuesday after MLK. I had to look, but
yeah, it's 3 months of just straight nonstop work, which that's why I was asking about the mental health days, because Simpson tried to come up with this thing where they give us, every so often throughout the semester, they give us a mental health day where we don't have to go to classes, or like they're leaving it up to the students. So you can pretty much choose like, oh, hey, I don't want to go to class today, so this is like my mental health day.
That is, yeah.
But it's like,
no, yeah.
It's not a week in a row, like it's need that solid week to just stop thinking about classes and that stuff.
Yeah.
What do you do?
No, that would be interesting. I do think that would be something that would be kind of hard at DMACC, because a lot of the career and technical classes, they are more tightly required to have like X number of days and X number of hours of class. And so
what do you do for the summer? Like, do you still teach in the summer, or do you have
Yep.
Hey.
And so we offer so we've got different term lengths. I will be teaching a couple of 10-week classes. So, and I don't know, some person who scheduled me, okay, it was me, but I picked so we've got different times. So I picked the first 10 weeks. So I'll have a week of break in May, and then my summer classes will start. But the good news is I'll still be done before the end of July. So I'll have, I just have to hang on for July and the beginning of August. And
right. I think that's all the questions that I really have. I appreciate you for meeting up with me. I know you're on a screen a lot. It's kind of hard to add another 30 minutes.
It's all good. It's secondhand right now. So second nature, yes.
I hope you have a good day. Once again,
fantastic.
Thank you for talking to me. And stay strong to end the semester.
We've got this. And you too, yes.
Thank you.
Congratulations on almost finishing your degree. Hang in there, huh?
Thank you.
Yes. Alrighty. Take care. Bye, Cole.
Bye-bye.